Hey guys, I hope you are doing amazing. For the next few days, we are actually going to be talking about freshwater and river basins. But today we'll just talk about freshwater. Now, I'm doing something a little bit different for you guys today, so I'm gonna give you guys notes, but with a little bit of twist. Now, the instructions to complete these notes are given to you right here. So, what you have to do is when you look over here, you have options to the correct answer. So, you just need to circle them or highlight them or whatever you prefer, or underline them or bold them or whatever, as to what you think the right option to complete the sentence is. So, let's get started. Today, we are going to talk about freshwater. Now, of course, let's go through this step by step. Dash is one of the most common substances on the surface of the earth. Of course, we know that water is covering our earth by a huge majority. Definitely not the noodles. Definitely not the noodles. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. So this is how you're going to be completing all of these sentences. Now, as you already know, water is one substance in the earth that can occur as a solid when we're looking at ice, as a liquid when we are talking about just water that we drink every day, and as gas when we talk about water vapor, which normally you can see when you are boiling water at a very high temperature and you can see that steam, right? And that steam is most definitely in the gaseous state. Now, water is actually also referred to as something called the universal solvent. And can you guess why? Well, if you guessed it's because it dissolves everything that can go in it, well, most of everything that can go in it, you're right. Of course, it cannot dissolve everything like rocks or, some forms of metals, but a lot of things can be dissolved like sugar or salt. So it is called a universal solvent because, as I already said so, it can dissolve a lot of the other substances. And that is one of the main reasons why we can say that the water on the earth is most definitely not going to be always pure. Because it probably has so many substances in it that we don't even see, that we don't even know about. So, always before drinking water, especially if you're going to a fresh water source and drinking water, it's always better to filter it to make sure there's no bacteria, to make sure there are not substances that are dissolved in it that you cannot see. Now, as you might have known, fresh water does cover a lot of the Earth's surface. But what percent? Do you think it's 71 or 85? Well, if you guess 71, you are absolutely correct. Water does cover about 71% of the Earth's surface. Most definitely not the underground, because if you had to look at the Earth's map, you can see a lot of blue colors, right? That actually depicts the water that is present on the surface. So it is actually the surface and not the underground. Now, however, not all of this water that we see is drinkable. And that's because most of the water that we see on the surface of the earth, about 97%, is actually salt water, unfortunately. And we as humans cannot live off of salt water. We need a freshwater source that does not contain as much salt. Now, the fresh water, though, as we are talking about it, about 3%, which is a majority, does exist in a more solid form, in more icy form, in ice caps or oceans, or even glaciers, and not rivers. So most of it is frozen in ice caps or glaciers, but you can also find these in oceans. Now, about 77% actually of the fresh water is frozen. As I already said above, that a lot of it is in ice caps or glaciers, so you can only assume that it is frozen. And we're talking about fresh water, not salt water, so let me just go ahead and highlight that. Um, So 77% of the freshwater is frozen, but of the 23% that is not frozen, about half of them is available, only half of them is available that can supply us and other living organisms around us with what we need to survive. So that is actually very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate because we have so much water resources on Earth. However, we cannot drink from it. Most of it is salt water, and what is remaining of fresh water, most of it is frozen and is not accessible to us. And even then, we only have about half of what is available for us to survive. Now, the availability of water actually varies depending on where you live. Now, if you live in America or if you live in tropical regions, you might have a better luck with how much water resources you have, depending on your geography. And that can allow us to utilize water as a resource. But if you live in different parts of the world where there are a lot of droughts, or if you live in more areas that are like filled with deserts, you will most probably have a more difficult time finding a water resource. And that's why we need to protect our water resources, and we need to make sure they're not being wasted. I hope this is something you guys learn about as we go forward in this topic. But this is all that we are going to do today. Of course, you can feel free to pause the video and check your answers, and if they look different from you, please make sure and go make that those changes are done before you turn them in. And that's all I have for you guys. I will see you guys later. Bye.